Hey everybody, there was a few general election polls that came out recently between Biden and Trump. Most of them are very close, but the one I want to focus on in this video is this one from ABC News Washington Post. And this has some of the most scathing results I've seen. And up front, let me preface this by saying this does seem to be an outlier poll. We're more than a year out, things are going to change. But even with that said, this is almost completely dismal for Biden. Let's start here in this second paragraph. 44% of Americans say they're worse off financially under Biden's presidency, and that's the most of any president since 1986. Just 37% approve of his job performance, 56% disapprove. That's 19 points underwater. On the economy alone, his approval is only 30%. We've also got immigration at the U.S. border. His approval rating there is just 23%. In terms of intensity of sentiment, 20% strongly approve of his work overall, while 45% strongly disapprove. It's hard to look at that and not think that is a staggering gap, even if this poll is more of an outlier. We've also got 74% that say he's too old for a second term. That's up 6. When asked the same thing about Trump, Trump is at 50%. So if there was no Biden, Trump would look like he's too old, but you throw Biden back in, all of a sudden, Trump not looking so old. So the approval graph is right here. And again, I can't understand why they don't use green for approve, red for disapprove. That makes no sense to me. We've got yellow and green, and of course, the green disapprove much higher. How about a possible government shutdown? 40% say they'd chiefly blame Biden and Democrats. 33% would put it on Republicans, even given the GOP infighting behind the budget impasse. And then we've got a little bit of Trump. When he left office, he was at 38% approval, essentially the same as Biden right now. But today, looking back, 48% say they approve of Trump's performance when he was in office, and essentially as many now, 49% disapprove, down from 60% when he left the White House. And I think this next sentence is very notable. Among the 56% of Americans who disapprove of Biden's work in office, 75% say looking back they approve of Trump. Again, that's another terrible sign for Biden. Now there's a lot you could say about that. The election is so far off. Once Trump gets back into the limelight, once his trials play out, that fatigue might kick in and animate voters, and Trump could lose. But if that doesn't happen, then this is very bleak for Biden. Now, I'm not going to read every data point on here, but here's another one. A remarkable 62% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents say the party should pick someone other than Biden as their nominee. Now, if it's not Biden, then there's no consensus candidate. But if you want to compare that to Trump, the support within his own party is at 54%. So Trump at least getting a majority support for running from his own party. That's not excellent. But compared to Biden, who's at 62% against running, again, you'd much rather be Trump in this situation. So with all this desire for a different candidate from his own party, to not even entertain the idea of debates or realistic primary challengers, all while touting democracy, that to me is absurd. Now in the head-to-head matchup, Trump is at an astounding 51%, Biden at 42%. Now do I think that's going to happen with Trump getting 51% of the popular vote next year? No, I think that is completely far-fetched. But Trump really doesn't even have to win the popular vote. Trump might even be able to lose it by 5 and still win the Electoral College. But anyway, the previous poll had Trump leading 49-42. That was from May, and still probably an outlier when you compare it to other polls. And how about this piece of data? Among those who say Trump should be prohibited by the U.S. Constitution from serving as president again, 18% of those support him over Biden. To me, that's indicative of a lot of voters trashing both of these candidates. But even if they think Trump is terrible, there's other factors in their life that would cause them to still support him over Biden. Now, the partisan breakdown for this poll, 41% Democrats or independent-leaning Democrats, 45% Republican or Republican-leaning independents. So a slight edge for the GOP there. However, survey respondents say back in 2020, they did vote for Biden 50-46. The actual outcome, 51-47. So that is a very close overlap. Now, if you want to look more at this or any of the other links in this video, they will be down below in the description. So I don't want to go over everything, but there are some breakdowns among different demographics. But among 18 to 35-year-olds, Trump has a slight 53 to 38% advantage. If that's 15 points, to me that's not slight at all. That is significant. And I know that goes up to 35-year-olds, but to see Trump with a double-digit lead amongst the youngest group, that is notable yet again. So there's other racial and gender breakdowns breakdowns, but the one good thing for Democrats, and this is not a surprise, Americans do oppose the Supreme Court ruling to end the constitutional right to abortion. That's 64 to 30 opposed. Biden is preferred to Trump by critics of that decision, 57 to 35. Supporters of the ruling favor Trump by a wide 81 to 16. So I know abortion is a big topic for Democrats, and it makes sense. That's something they have an advantage on. And there's a lot more here. How about this one? Among people who say they did not vote in 2020, Trump has a 57 to 32 advantage. So I assume those are either voters that sat out, maybe they're people that were not 18 at the time. Either way, another big advantage for Trump. Among the 62% of Democrats and Democratic-leaning independents who oppose Biden for the nomination, 16% say they would vote for Trump over Biden. So that's another sign the support for Trump, it's much harder than it is for Biden. And there's more here about the economy, and it's not a surprise. Overwhelming majorities think the economy, including food prices, gas and energy, and average incomes, are not so good or poor. Even the unemployment rate, that's widely touted by Biden, only 35% say that's excellent or good. So you could go down even further and take a look at some of the trends with this poll, but let's get on to 538. Take a look at this pollster's rating. Well, ABC News, Washington Post, their rating is an A. Sounds very impressive, but how accurate are they recently? Well, overall, it does seem like they have a bias across the board. They only have one poll on here from the midterms. They had Republicans winning the House by 2%. They won by 2.7. Not a bad poll at all. How about back in 2020? Well, in every one of these, they underestimated Trump or the Republican and overestimated the Democrat, including this famous poll for president in Wisconsin. They had Biden winning by 17. He only won it by 0.6. And I know everybody makes mistakes, but that is truly one of the worst polls I've ever seen. Over 16% underestimation of Trump in a crucial swing state. So that's the ABC News poll. It does seem like it's overly favorable for the Republicans, certainly in that head-to-head matchup, with Trump leading by around 10. But then when you take a look at the 2020 polls, they were clearly favoring Democrats. So like with most elections, there's something for each side to cling to. But I will say, if Biden is just going to talk up how good the economy is and only run on abortion, there's no way I think that's going to be enough. Now, Trump is scary for a lot of voters. That could easily be enough to put Biden over the top. There's a lot of different things that go into it, but there's plenty for Trump to run on. Clearly, most of the economy is unfavorable for the Democrats. Immigration, the migrant crisis, that's another major sore spot for Biden. So if you're confident Biden is just going to win because everybody hates Trump, I would completely disagree with that. And on the flip side, if you're confident Trump is going to win because of food and gas prices and crime, that's not going to be enough either. We're way too far away to have any confidence, but this is probably the best poll I've seen for Trump. And one last thing I'll say about the polling. I know in the midterms, Republicans disappointed, probably a lot because of abortion, but things only stay the same until they don't. Back in 2016 when Trump won, the polls vastly underestimated him so much that in the midterms in 2018, I remember hearing a lot about how Republicans thought they were going to underestimate Republicans again, and they weren't worried. But that didn't happen. Democrats pretty much had a blue wave. So I think in politics, complacency sets in. People have a hard time thinking things will change on the next election, but a lot of times people are wrong. Things change all the time. So maybe they do stay the same for one more election, and it is all about abortion and how bad Trump is. Or maybe they flip back, and there's an underestimation of the anger at the status quo, and that'll be taken out on Biden and the Democrats. I could see it either way. This is just one poll. There's plenty more out there that show this tied or within 1 or 2 points. Definitely look at multiple polls and multiple sources, but this is a recap of this ABC News Washington Post poll. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about these results? Are they all wrong and it's a complete outlier? Or do you think Biden should have some serious concerns? Is any of this going to even matter in a year from now? What do you think about the accuracy of this pollster? Let me know down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.